Welcome to Sound and Fury. I am Eric Wilford Watson.
And I'm Hugh Frank, and I'm not a robot.
I am. Today we're going to talk about Star Wars.
Yay, finally.
No, it's been a couple of minutes since we talked about Star Wars. So, we were talking earlier, just off the cuff, it was like a meme about the, what's the dude's name?
J.J. Abrams?
The First Order.
Oh, yeah, General Hux.
Yeah. So I just made an offhand comment that I didn't like how his character ended up helping the good guys. It just seemed very much inconsistent with who he was presented to be, and I didn't buy it. And I just casually mentioned that maybe we should do a video about how we would have handled the sequel trilogy had it been given to us to create. So with no planning whatsoever, with no forethought, we're going to make our own Star Wars trilogy.
Dun, 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 dun.
We're going to hop in our DeLoreans.
There we go.
Hop in our DeLoreans and go back a few years and buy Star Wars for $4 billion from George Lucas.
Yeah.
And what happens next?
Well, for starters, I would like to have some Skywalkers in the Skywalker trilogy.
I can see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe until you get our next video.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that special?
Okay, so for starters, yes, Skywalkers. So the basic plot, for one, you don't have another Death Star because that's stupid. There are no more Death Stars.
But what if it's a really, really big Death Star that's a whole planet?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
No more Death Stars. So so here's the thing. You have to
What if it's a Star Killer base instead of a Death Star? That'd be different.
No, it really wouldn't. They wouldn't at all.
What if, for some reason, Palpatine came back? Somehow.
No. He's got to be good and dead. So first thing you do is, I think I could sum it up in 3 words: Grand Admiral Thrawn. You don't have to follow the Timothy Zahn. You don't have to follow his books to the T. Matter of fact, that's part of the fun, is you have places where it veers off from, right? At the time, you didn't have Grand Admiral Thrawn introduced in Rebels. He was just kind of this possibility. Or if you just want to go way off, you have a Thrawn-like character. But basically, you have an existential threat to the New Republic, to the new Jedi Order. Bring back Jedi. And you have a MacGuffin that Han discovered,
That leads you to the Sith planet. No. Okay.
That Han knows about from back in his days of smuggling, and it takes a Force sensitive person like Luke, basically a reason to get them all together. You need Leia in there. Whatever you want to do with the next generation of Skywalkers or Solos.
The Millennium Falcon D.
The Millennium Falcon D, as in D's nuts. Maybe. So you have, for one thing, you just have them together, and you have them looking for this MacGuffin, and ultimately you begin the movie with this existential threat, and you defeat that existential. I can't say the word. You defeat that by the end of the movie, and you have a feel-good, like you've accomplished something, like it's a self-contained movie, just like the way A New Hope was. Mm-hmm. Because A New Hope was supposed to be a singular movie, and if George Lucas didn't have the budget to make the sequels to that, it would have been...
If no other Star Wars had ever been made, Star Wars A New Hope would be fine.
It would be okay, yeah. They blow up the Death Star, you assume they win the war, and that's kind of the end. A Phantom Menace was similar in that that was what the Phantom Menace was. It was this elusive elsewhere kind of thing happening, right? But there was a war started, the war ended. There was nothing really else happening.
War. It's fantastic.
And it could have been. So then in the second one, that's when you have your darker chapter. The one thing you don't have is Luke being a drunk failure that got everything wrong, that tried to slaughter his own nephew, that ran off to this reclusive planet.
And there are no Jedi.
And there are no Jedi, etc. You can have it could actually be an entirely different threat. It could be not Palpatine returning, but you could have. It needs to be a darker chapter.
How about the Borg?
Jesus.
Every word of what you just said was wrong.
Who would the protagonist be in this fictional, non-existent movie?
It could be a remnant of the Empire. It could be something even like the First Order. I mean, the whole idea of these. If you think about after World War II.
I said protagonist, not antagonist.
Oh, you said protagonist. Oh, the protagonists would be ultimately Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, and the droids.
So you'd have them be the main characters.
They would be the main characters, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. And along the way, they would discover possibly the antagonist to the second movie, or maybe you do have like a Kylo Ren. A Ben Solo kind of thing, and in the course of the first movie, he starts to turn because he doesn't see you can have kind of his origin story as a villain, good guy. By the end of it, he's a bad guy, and they don't know it yet. So you've got this twist. As far as they know, the war's over. It could end on that note, the way Episode 1 and Episode 4 did. But we know it's not going to, obviously, because it's a trilogy. But you've got the creation of, say, a Kylo Ren kind of character. The first one would be, maybe another Dark Jedi, or it could be some kind of foreign invader that we haven't seen before. It could be a First Order kind of thing, the remnants. It could just be the last handful of living Imperials, kind of like the way the various the various Jewish countries went after the Nazis in South America and stuff.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about in the real world, Nazis went to Argentina, and Israeli intelligence basically went after the old Nazis.
Right.
That could have been that's interesting. To go after the war criminals from.
Yeah. And you could have, maybe they're up to something, these old war criminals, right?
That'd be a good Star Wars TV show, actually. They could probably still do that.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting if they had
They almost had that in The Mandalorian a little bit with some of the Imperial remnants and stuff. But in the course of that, you could have, maybe that's when, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Maybe the new Jedi hunting down these Imperial remnants. If you think about if somebody committed a crime against humanity 40 years ago, are they the same person now under different circumstances?
So the villain could think that the Jedi are going too far?
The villain could think that the Jedi are going too far. So they're hunting these people down. They're saving the galaxy. They've defeated the big evil. But in the course of that, at least one of the Jedi discovers within himself that shouldn't be. And maybe stumbles across some Sith artifacts that these people are hanging on to, or like the version of those books, the sacred Jedi texts, something like a holocron or something that allows them to start along the path. Doesn't turn them evil, but like forbidden knowledge. And they open the book, and now, this is different. This is, I can embrace this dark side, my passion. My passion is my strength, and I forget how the whole creed of the Sith goes, but in the end is, through my passion I gain freedom, or something like that. So the way it's presented, the way the Sith creed is presented, it's not like I'm evil and I do evil stuff.
Right.
It really is my emotions set me free. Yeah. It really is about freedom to them. So from that point of view, if you read that and you don't have the skepticism of, well, these people are evil because we've seen what Darth Vader did to the people in Rogue One. If you don't know that, then it might be easy to kind of be tempted to that side, right? And I would have brought back Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader's Force ghost, and maybe there's some internal struggle with this new, with like a Kylo Ren type character, right? Worshiping Darth Vader, but at the same time, the actual Darth Vader comes to him and is like, do it. It's like, no, fuck it. You were good when you were evil. Well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Well, Rian Johnson could pen that. But but anyway, so now you've got the second movie where you've got this newly formed antagonist. The scene, as bad as the sequel trilogy was, the scene where Kylo Ren kills Han Solo, I would duplicate that scene in some way. That was such a beautifully tragic scene. I felt like I was being stabbed with a lightsaber, and the whole thing about him, brushing his son's cheek and like, oh God, it's just, that was the perfect Star Wars scene. That was the best scene from all of the sequel trilogy. I would keep something like that. I would put it in a second movie. Han Solo would die the same way, or at the end of the first one. I don't know. And one by one, you'd kill off the characters. Probably, Princess Leia would have died in the second one. Luke would have been the last holdout and died in the third one, just kind of, so you can get to that next generation. That whole idea of, well, we're going to spend a whole movie looking for Luke Skywalker and we're not going to give him one line of dialogue. Okay, that makes for a movie, but it's not a Skywalker movie. There's no Skywalkers in the movie.
Especially when you get to actually see what he does. He just throws the lightsaber away and says, piss off, I'm not Luke Skywalker anymore.
Right. So, yeah, it's
like, this is what you want, and this is what you expect, but that would be too easy, so we're going to do this instead.
Right.
Which doesn't quite work.
Right.
Now, what about your finale? How do you end all this?
So the way you end it is Luke...
Typically credits.
Luke Skywalker finally has to face down this super bad baddie, and... I'm just formulating this in my head, but it's already better than what happened. So you've got other space battles that are happening because this person has raised some kind of army. You've got the typical, Star Wars where there's a battle in space. There's a battle, a lightsaber battle happening. And at some point, Luke gets to basically a carbon copy of the scene where he's fighting Darth Vader, but he can't turn this person. He just can't turn them. And the only thing he can do is sacrifice himself. And in doing so, the person realizes he just killed maybe his own father. Maybe the kid's his son, right? I guess he can't be Han and Luke's son. I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. But admit it, it's better than what is already out there. So in the end, the only thing Luke can do is die.
Today is a good day to die.
So that this other Sith person can be redeemed.
Instead of using the Force so hard, he just kind of dies because...
Yeah, that was fucking stupid. So it's a mirror image of the fight with him and Darth Vader, where he succumbs to his anger first, and then he realizes, oh my god, I got to pull back here because I'm going down the path. And then he can't turn this person in any other way, so it branches off from that fight. It's not exactly the same. It's like George Lucas said, it's poetry. It rhymes. It's not the same verse. It's a different verse, but it rhymes. And so that's this baddie finally just stabs Luke or cuts his head off or whatever, and maybe at that point he's revisited by Darth Vader's ghost, and Darth Vader's like, fuck you, you're absolutely nothing if you.
Yeah, well, if we had time to sit down and make notes and plan this out, we could probably have made that work. That's not quite the direction I would go if I was given the reins of a sequel trilogy.
All right.
One of the things that bugged me about Episode 7 was I had a hard time understanding that universe. In the original trilogy, it was very simple. The Empire controlled the galaxy. They were bad. There is an alliance of rebels trying to overthrow the Empire to bring peace and prosperity back to the galaxy and restore the Republic. And there were these Jedi that used to be powerful. They're pretty much gone. Luke Skywalker has to become a Jedi to defeat, we've all seen the movie.
Yeah.
But when Episode 7 comes along, you don't. It is not as clear cut. What the heck? What is the First Order? What is the Republic? They're coexisting, but how? The political reality of the situation
First Order is a junta, or it kind of ends up being...
It's not as clear. Where is the First Order just a reconstituted empire? How did that come to be? What I would do is I would have the universe set where the Galactic Empire still exists as a political entity, but they're a lot like the defeated Germany after World War I. They don't like that they're being forced to pay reparations. They don't like that their power is limited. They don't like... They're basically, if you were an Imperial, you're treated like dirt. So a Hitler arises.
I'm not a racialist.
First Order!
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they were with
Yeah,
Space
but
Nazis
they
anyway.
need to clarify that.
Yeah.
The Empire exists, but it's small, it's contained, it's defeated. The Republic exists, but the Imperial remnant is still there. But it blitzkriegs. It invades the allegory of Poland. It takes over Europe.
Right.
That's where the war comes in. So if World War I was the original trilogy, World War II is the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Then
And to be clear, there's already references to space Nazis, and there's like when they made the original scene where they're shooting the TIE fighters.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of World War
It's
II.
a lot of, yeah. So we're not the first ones to bring up that the Empire is basically space Nazis. If you don't know that by now,
I mean, even the term
why-
stormtroopers,
Yeah.
there were literal Nazi stormtroopers. I mean,
Right,
yeah.
right.
The
So-
style of the uniforms, it's
yeah, the First Order. I mean, that's basically a big Nazi.
Yeah, I mean, they even basically did the Hitler salute after.
Yeah.
the Nazi flags, the
It's
big
already
red
established
banners.
that they're space Nazis. So
Yeah.
if anybody has a theory otherwise, you're wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, the original trilogy basically was World War II in space, but you can kind of make that as if it was World War I. And then World War II is the second movie. And you have Luke Skywalker, who is an older, wiser, like what Obi-Wan Kenobi would have become had the Jedi Order not been destroyed.
Right.
He's an older, wiser Jedi who has kids. He's raising them up. There's a new Jedi Order, and they basically are the soldiers of the New Republic, or leading the armies of the New Republic. And the villain, let's say, why don't we have the top half of Darth Maul be the Emperor?
Well, they did kill him off in Rebels. Well, no, but never mind. You're going back to before the
Yeah.
Rebels.
So let's say Darth Maul becomes Emperor Palpatine, essentially.
Yeah.
So that connects it back to the Episode 1. So you're making a consistent link with all the movies that way.
Yeah.
So, and he turns one of Luke's kids to the dark side. And let's say maybe Luke, or maybe Han Solo has a kid who's on the good side. And then those...
Oh, and they got to fight each other.
Yeah, and
That's a civil war.
I think
That
our protagonist, brother against brother.
Yeah.
I think our protagonists should not be the original Star Wars crew. I think it should be their next generation. But I think Luke, Leia, Chewie, Han Solo, they're all in all movies. All those characters are in all the movies. Maybe real life, would have interfered with that because of the passing of Carrie Fisher. But if I was planning it out, I would intend all of them to be in all of the movies. Maybe one or two of them might die in the final movie in a heroic fashion. But I think it would be great to see the rise of a new empire that's worse than the first empire. And it looks more bleak, like they might actually conquer the galaxy, but you have to have the Star Wars to beat the bad guy. So there's a clear good guy, there's a clear bad guy, new protagonists that are the next generation, but the old characters are still the old characters.
Yeah, and it does make sense if because basically the first trilogy was about Anakin, the second trilogy was about Luke, the third trilogy could be about Luke's kid. Should be about Luke's kid. And
Yeah,
that's
so
why it
3
was so
trilogies, 3
disappointing-
Skywalkers.
Yeah. And that's why it was so disappointing that Rey was a Palpatine, because for one, the Palpatines won. It's
Oh,
over.
and Palpatine doesn't fucking come back in my sequel trilogy.
Right. Well, he never would. Yeah, yeah. No, it does. I do like that the third one's about, yeah, about Luke's son.
Yeah,
You know, one thing that I would have changed in
Just one thing.
well, one thing that I would have changed just in episode 8 is in addressing that Carrie Fisher passed after the movie was done being filmed, but before the movie was released. Well, it was still being edited. And this is where you just you just gave up these golden opportunities. That Admiral, and I like Laura Dern. I like she's a great actress, but her character was terrible. She played a terrible character very well. If she was meant to be hated, she succeeded. But she was a nobody. She was not in any other movie. Mm-hmm. She obviously was not in any movie after. Nobody gives. It was not a character that anybody had any pathos for. Who cares? They had an opportunity to switch it around, edit it so that it was Leia in the chair, and that Leia gave her life doing what became known as the Holdo maneuver or whatever, right? That instead of just keeping the film the way it was, just send her out in a blaze of glory. What a way to just send off Carrie Fisher and not try to figure out what. And J.J. Abrams did his best with that, but fuck, it was still awful. And just let her have that blaze of glory, and people walk out of the theaters with tears, like oh my God, she's we lost her twice, kind of thing. Anyway, so they gave it. Yeah. So there's even ways that they could have fixed while they were making this awful trilogy that they were making. They could have fixed it, but they didn't.
Yeah, so I would like the political reality to make more sense. I want to understand who the First Order is or who the reconstituted Empire is. I want that. I don't need a lot of heavy exposition, but it's very easy to just show you the reality of the situation. Right. Have the next generation of characters, a passing of the torch. I like the idea. 1, 2, and 3 are Anakin. 4, 5, and 6 are Luke. 7, 8, 9 are Luke's kid, right, and Han's kid. Right. That would make sense to me. And then if you want to connect it to original baddie, Darth Maul would be great, or you can just invent a new Sith. I'd be fine with that too. But it really ought to be a Sith. It really should be still Jedi versus Sith, Alliance or Republic versus Empire or First Order, whatever you have it. Yeah. And tell your adventure story. Have a character. Maybe Luke's kid doesn't have any intention of being a Jedi, but something happens where he has to. Luke's kid does not want to follow in Daddy's footsteps, but let's say his I don't know, something happens like that.
Han and Leia's kid would have just as much Jedi blood as Luke and whoever's kid, right? Let's say Mara Jade.
Do we make Leia a full-on Jedi? Because she's not really in the sequel trilogy that exists.
Yes, and matter of fact, I would make her a different type of Jedi. It goes back to the Old Republic video game, like Knights of the Old Republic, and then
that was a great game.
There were Jedi that were more like healers, and there were Jedi that were less combat and more, wise. Kind of like Yoda, actually.
So she'd be more along the lines of a pacifist Jedi or a healing Jedi.
Yeah, I didn't. So Carrie Fisher, I didn't really see Carrie Fisher being like an action.
Although I am picturing her in Jedi, with her little space pistol. She's pretty badass.
To a degree, but her Princess Leia was about diplomacy and about using her mind.
Well, she was a senator.
Yeah. She was not really the action hero.
We could make her We could make her chancellor of the. That's what we do. We make her chancellor of the Republic. She was a senator, and then she became the chancellor of the Republic. So she's the political head of the Republic. Right. That's what she should be. That's perfect. Right. And maybe it's her passing that is what makes one of the Skywalker or Solo kids decide to become a Jedi after all.
Well, yeah.
To go after they killed Mama or Auntie Fisher, Organa. That's
Organa. Yeah.
Auntie Organa.
Yes. Princess Leia Skywalker.
So the kid that doesn't want to be a Jedi becomes a Jedi. They learn the Force. They have the Force ghosts of Darth Vader and Yoda. And
The thing I was thinking about,
you're absolutely right. They ought to bring Hayden Christensen back as a Force ghost.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, they ended up doing it with Liam Neeson. Why wouldn't they? You know, they total missed opportunity. Missed opportunity. I do like the way they did that in Obi-Wan. That was good.
And I'd be totally okay if you ripped off the storylines of episodes 4, 5, and 6. As George Lucas said, they rhyme.
Yeah.
Even if they're virtual copycats story-wise, like change. Let's not make it a nice planet. Let's make it a jungle. Let's take instead of Endor, let's make it whatever.
Yeah, it's any number of
but
things.
if you follow the formula, there's nothing wrong with following the formula. It works. It's a space adventure with laser swords. You don't need to overthink it.
Yeah,
And they overthought it.
They did, and they set about to turn everybody into the opposite, or at least different than what you kind of expected them to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, Princess Leia was a a senator. She was the daughter of a senator,
Mm-hmm.
the adopted daughter of a senator, also. So, I mean, however you want to put it, right? And so she should have become the chancellor, or 40 years in the future, maybe she's no longer the chancellor because term limits. but a former something like that, right? And then for Han Solo to be like a failed dad, and then for Luke Skywalker to be a failed Jedi, and like you don't have to make them failures to have people have interest in in this other stuff. I mean, just think about like Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings, right? He goes in and out of the picture. I mean, he's in it for some parts, but he's just kind of the wisdom to the other characters in other parts. You could have Luke going in and out of the story, just providing wisdom at certain areas. I mean, that's the same thing as Yoda in the original trilogy, right? He shows up, he gives some sage advice, and then he dies. So what's wrong with doing that? And just at least have them in there as not shadows of their former selves and failed versions of themselves. Just have them be the people that we all wanted them to be. Because Star Wars is a Gen X movie, and to bring it to the new generation is absolutely fine. For it to continue, new people need to watch it. That's awesome. But you do have to pay homage to the people that started watching this movie, this series that made it what it is.
So I'm going to use Star Trek as an analogy
you are.
here.
Yeah.
I like to read Star Trek novels because I enjoy literature.
Okay.
The worst Star Trek novels are the ones where the novelist tries to write a novel that has nothing to do with Star Trek, because they didn't invent Star Trek. They were hired to write a novel in the Star Trek universe. So they're stuck with these Star Trek characters.
Damn.
But you know what? I am a creative person. I have imagination. I want to tell my story. So I'm going to create this whole other bullshit story that has nothing to do with the Star Trek characters that are on the cover of the book that you're buying to read. And you have to wade through a whole bunch of boring story that sucks just to get glimpses of the characters that you actually paid money to read.
That's precisely.
And so what happened with Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams, they didn't invent Star Wars, but they wanted to make their movie. So they took the elements that they had to take and then did their own thing, which sounds great on paper, but let's say you go to your favorite restaurant because you love the food there. You go to that restaurant because you love the feeling, you love the atmosphere, you love the food. It's exactly what you want, but when you go there, none of the menu items are the same. They've changed the interior, the staff is all different, except for that they have like one dish that you used to like, but now it's covered in mayonnaise for no reason. It's not what you went there for. You go to the Star Wars movie because you want to see Star Wars. But you get this thing that somebody else decided they wanted to make instead.
And in small defense to J.J. Abrams, so I didn't like the Star Killer base, but I could live with that.
That was the best of the sequel movies because it was the closest in tone to the original movies.
Yeah, and Rian Johnson is the one that really effed it up, and I think most people would agree with that. So if you think about, if we just reset this conversation to, what would you have done with Episode 8 on? Episode 7, I don't like that Luke wasn't in it. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of nitpicks, but it's a movie I could live with. what really got me was the moment Luke went meh and threw the lightsaber away. I was
It was going for shock value, but it's
yeah, and so there could have been a legit reason that Luke was there. Him trying to murder his nephew shouldn't have been it. Rey should have been either a Kenobi or a Skywalker somehow. Mara Jade should have shown up. There are so many ways that you could have taken J.J. Abrams' story from Episode 7 and made the rest of that trilogy good.
So let's do it. Episode 8, directed by Hugh Frank and Eric Wilford Watson.
There we go.
She presents Luke Skywalker the lightsaber. He takes it, has a little twinkle in his eye, drinks some green milk, and says, "Follow me." And then they cut to other stuff that's happening in the movie.
Right.
They dole it out. He takes her to his little cabin, and they talk about, what are you doing here? Who are you? What's going on? All that good stuff. Where's Han? When she arrives on the Falcon. I like that was powerful.
That was good. That was good stuff.
But I think
I'm from nowhere. Nobody's from nowhere.
So
Jakku.
what
That's
if
pretty much
the First Order? It turns out the First Order had destroyed the new Jedi Temple, and Luke went into hiding, and he's creating a new Jedi Temple, where he has to keep it absolutely secret, away from the First Order.
The rule of two. So if you go back to Darth Bane, way back, so the Sith had an empire, they had many Sith, it was defeated, the Sith were killed almost all the way down to the last, I think there was one Sith left, and he took an apprentice, his name was Darth Bane. Curiously enough, in an animated version of, I can't remember which one, I think it was Clone Wars, Darth Bane was voiced by Mark Hamill. Ironically. So that was the rule of two, always one, a master and apprentice, right? And so it would be a good turnabout if Luke had to very carefully pick out apprentices, and difficult to see, always emotion is the future. Luke knew that somebody was coming to be his apprentice. He didn't know who it was.
Right.
It turned out to be Rey. And so he was there waiting for her to show up. Even in Kylo Ren says to Rey, "I've seen your dreams. I've seen the island." She's dreamed about this already. The Force, the living Force, brings them together, and they have to hide. And he's maybe building a new Jedi temple, but maybe not so much, right? A temple for two, because he's going to take on one singular Jedi apprentice, because they've had to adopt the rule of two, because the Sith are ruling. Anyway.
No, I think that it should
And give the Knights of Ren Force powers. Let them be the new Sith, right? And oh god, they died like chumps.
I like the idea that Luke is creating a new Jedi Order, though. She shouldn't be waiting for Rey. What if Rey was orphaned in the attack of the original Jedi Temple, and she's the son of... Thank you. Have more whiskey, Eric. She's the daughter of...
Don't call me daughter.
Of some powerful Jedi. Let's not make her related to Luke. Maybe she's... Oh, no, why not? Let's have her be Han Solo's kid.
Han and Leia.
They thought their kids were dead.
Yeah.
They thought that...
Yeah,
they thought Rey had been killed in the temple. Yeah. The temple massacre when the First Order was rising. So, but Lucas had been having visions of her, and he's the only one that thinks she's still alive.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, there's any number of things, or she could be a Kenobi, or she could be. For her to, with no training, be able to defeat Kylo Ren has to be explained by something.
She's the main character.
She's the main.
That's why.
She could even be another. So let's work Snoke into this. Snoke has found Palpatine's notes, and Darth Plagueis the Wise, found the notes on how to use the midichlorians to create a new life. Maybe she's the next Anakin. Maybe there is no father.
Oh.
Why not? Make her the next Anakin. Anakin was powerful without training. He was a pod racer.
So she
He
She was intended to be created as the ultimate Sith.
Yeah.
But turn good.
But she was hidden
Yeah.
by Luke or somebody.
This is all better than what they actually
It's
did.
all better than what they actually did. Yeah. There's any number of things. And then having one long car chase when realistically, so you've got the Empire, the First Order is here, and then the Rebellion, the Resistance is here, and really all they have to do is just jump to here in hyperspace, and look at they're in range, and the Rebels can't do anything. Whatever. Or, hey, you know what? We know their trajectory for the next 8 hours. How about we call in reinforcements to show up ahead of them? Like that whole thing just didn't need. It was stupid.
Yeah.
Canto Bite was stupid. There was so much stuff that was stupid. But yeah, we could resurrect that plot, and then because of how Rian Johnson fucked up that whole thing, that's why the third one was just a rushed, terrible, like
Band-Aid. It was a big Band-Aid.
Yeah, and it was like Palpatine didn't need to return. If you wanted to bring back Ian McDiarmid, you bring him back as an evil Sith Force ghost. Maybe it's like Sauron. Maybe he's trying to return, but he's not really like. There's all kinds of things you could do. Somehow he returned. No. Or maybe people think he did, but
That's one of the most lazy things I've ever seen. Is somehow
Yeah.
Palpatine has returned.
Right. It's just they explain how Sauron's trying to get back through the ring, and that's what the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy is about, right? So
Walking.
make even the trees walked in that movie. Do you have any cleaning supplies? I made some fanboy throw up. Anyway, Clerks 2. See it if you haven't. So, yeah. So I think we've got, and then the third one you just kind of wrap it up or whatever, right? The second one's got to be really really dark because it's the poetry. The first one, the First Order was defeated. Right, so Force Awakens you could have almost stand on its own just as it was, as long as you don't have Episode 8 the way it is. And even Mark Hamill said, "I fundamentally disagree with what you're doing with my character."
Yeah, and he was right.
And it was
He kind of got over it and kind of said, "I see what you're doing with it." He kind of became more diplomatic about it,
Yeah.
but he never came out and said that I love this. This is great.
yeah.
You know?
So I think we have
yeah,
our thing.
Take that for what it's worth. These imaginings of movies that don't fucking exist and never will.
Thing that should not be.
So please like and subscribe and do all those internet things that you're supposed to do. And remember, if you like Star Wars and Star Trek, you should buy my novel, Judas Kissed, which has absolutely nothing to do with any of that.
Yes, but it's good. I read it.
It's all true.